What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emory and I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby. Cam and me have been talking about this 2025 schedule release that came out on Thursday, the 14th. And Cam set up this presentation for us to kind of go over all the things that have been going on. Lots of fun things.
Yeah, and we know they do a formula for scheduling opponents. So once the season ends, you know all the opponents, but you don't know when and where those games are going to take place until the very end. So you'll have strength of schedule, which, take it with a grain of salt because you can't just always correlate with what they did last year. There's injuries, there's, improvements and regression, all that stuff. But where games are placed, all the primetime games, the bye weeks, those are the big important things that everybody looks at first when these release. So we want to jump into it.
Yep.
But first off, we're going to show this a fun graph. Our buddy Warren Sharp, basically a strength of schedule graph showing correlating. Top green means, hey, easy strength of schedule based on last year's opponents. And then he actually correlates a little with Vegas win totals instead of just 2024 record, which is cool. But you see the Patriots and the 49ers by far the highest. And then the Saints, who we expect massive regression once again this year, but they have an easy schedule, so they may be on the outside looking in terms of QB1 next year. And then at the bottom, we said the NFC North was going to have a ball this year. Cleveland's down there at the bottom once again. The Giants, absolutely brutal schedule as well. And we're not going to break everyone down on a case-by-case, team-by-team basis in this one. We're just going to give a solid run-through. But, yeah, that's what kind of stands out if you want to show this graph.
You should go check out that Giants schedule, though, if you're watching the video. Oh, my gosh. They got absolutely just – I don't understand how you can do that to them after they're literally the number 3 pick. Let's go on to the next thing.
Yeah. So this one, another graphic. This actually shows the total amount of mileage that each team is going to be traveling this year. A lot of times it's whoever's on the, either side of the coast, but both LA teams going to be traveling a ton. Each of them also having a overseas game as well. Cincinnati barely leaving the country. I guess kudos for them being in the middle of the country, but not a lot of travel for some of those teams. But sometimes that can, maybe sway our opinions on a weekly basis of, hey, yeah, Chargers are better, but they got to go all the way to Miami in the hot heat, kind of those kinds of things.
I know that in college, when me and Dustin do videos, we talk about especially teams like Cal who are in the ACC and the opposite side of the country. This is a little different because it's the NFL. They're all professionals, but at the same time, it definitely has an effect. And so we like pointing that out because I don't, obviously this could be a reason they lose.
Right.
But yeah, let's talk about the bye weeks. These are very important to us because we play best ball. And in best ball, we need the bye weeks to make sure we correlate our teams and don't have every team on the week 8 bye week because there's 6 of them this year. I kind of want to get your take on what the perfect bye week is. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but
somewhere smack dab right in the middle. And that's where they try to get the bulk of them between 8 and 12. But some teams, they are sorely looking for one at the very end of this bye week stretch. So Carolina, New England, Giants, 49ers, all teams who struggled last year. You got to get out the gate and you got to stay healthy, especially being San Francisco, who's dealt with multiple years of injuries in recent years. Got to get through the storm to week 14, and then you can take a rest, get to December, and start that playoff run. But, it's really tough for teams like Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Whether or not you expect to do well, besides the point, is, hey, if you get off to a good start, it's very unlikely you have a ton of nagging injuries already. You want to keep the momentum going, and it's kind of hard to just kind of have a stop all of a sudden. Or for example, Minnesota, week 6, early bye, but that is after back-to-back games in Ireland and Germany.
Right.
So basically, you're gone for multiple weeks, and then you have a bye week. So yeah, it'll probably be better after all the travel lag and stuff like that. It's still kind of hey, then after that, you got 11 more weeks to go.
And also, some of these teams their bye weeks are they have a Thursday night game. So they give them a game on a Sunday, they give them a bye, and then the Thursday night game, and then they get basically 2 10-day rest periods, which is always something that I like when you get an opportunity for your bye week to sit in that range. But so those are the buys. We're actually going to do a primetime thing where we show you all the primetime games, starting with Thursday Night Football. We're just going to go over them. We're not going to talk about every game. We're just going to go over them, and then we're going to talk about our favorites.
We're going to start off with the heaters. So Dallas being the opener game that the Eagles usually in recent years. The Super Bowl champ, they host and raise the banner against a pretty good opponent, and then this year they decided to go with the TV ratings and the rivalry angle. I think it's fun, even as a Cowboys fan, that they're already 7-point dogs. That's exactly kind of where I thought it would be. But this is going to be a testament of how the season's going to go, because they are juiced to a under on 7.5 wins, which I don't remember a win total being that low for a Dak Prescott led Cowboys team. So with that being said, how is this team going to go? You're letting your rival raise the banner on you. How are you going to respond? Because you have the whole offseason saying, we're starting with the Eagles. And then after that, it gets pretty tough. Right. So starting off strong is really going to be a testament of, hey, is this season going to go exactly how the public is expecting? Or is it going to be where, hey, we're going to actually be a surprise team in a division that has 2 of the top 4 to make it out of the NFC odds right now?
Yep. And then the game I want to kind of go over is an in-house rivalry. I'm a Raiders fan, and the Raiders are going to the Broncos in Denver. That is my mom's team. So we always have a fun rivalry in-house. We haven't won that rivalry recently, but it's okay. We're going to get them this year. You know how it goes. But yeah, so that is a game that I think is interesting. The AFC West obviously is super, super close, and there's 3 teams that have a really good shot of making it on the betting lines and everything. So this could be a game where the Raiders steal one, because the Raiders love to go like 2-4, 3-3, and take some games from these other teams.
Yeah, and I think it's a whole lot of fun, because like the second half of the season is straight up a whole lot of like, hey, this matters for playoffs. Like the Raiders and Broncos are going to be competing for a wild card spot. The Jets and the Patriots, probably only one of them would even make it, if either of them, but both of them kind of similar win totals right now. Buffalo Texans, huge for not only tiebreaker implications, but seeding. Bengals Ravens, that could decide the division. It's on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah.
Cowboys Lions,
big game.
Big game. It's going to rate well. Falcons Bucks gave us back-to-back bangers basically on Thursday.
500 yards out of Kirk Cousins.
Oh yeah, that was both
crazy.
of those showdowns were awesome. But yeah, back-to-back. So that one's probably going to be for the division. Rams Seahawks, kind of another
division
thing.
Yeah.
Broncos Chiefs, another similar. Yeah. So a lot of fun at the back end. I'm hoping that the injuries don't kind of make these games kind of duds, because it felt like there was a lot of Thursday night games that we were just like, I hope we have fun with our DFS lines, because otherwise, like, how do we get through a Denver and a New Orleans game?
It was the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game. Where Jameis came in and the snow. That was awesome. It was so worth it. But going over to the Sunday night football games, we have these games, and there's some that overlap, but I think that you have to talk about week 1, like you kind of alluded to on the last one. Ravens and Bills, they're going to get to play. They just had they're getting a rematch for their playoff game where the Bills came out on top, and it's going to be a fireworks type of game in week 1. So that's my game that I like to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, these also have a lot of fun. I know this is like one of the highest rated games, and so they really NBC really tries to get it, because this is their only game every week that they're able to host. But yeah, Ravens Bills right out the gate, just swinging back-to-back MVPs. They've met a ton, and then most recently in the divisional round. Each of them are the last team to be knocked off by the Chiefs going into the AFC Championship game in the prior season. So huge game. That's going to have a lot of tiebreaker purposes, and you have to decide in week 1, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, going down, there's a lot of non-tiebreaker games, but fun ones. Lions, Chiefs.
I was actually going to ask, and I'll answer first if it's easier, because I actually have an answer. But what is your biggest sleeper game on this list?
Sleeper game that just doesn't really mean much, but just for fun?
Yeah, sure.
Shoot.
Just like two teams that you're like, they're going to be 8-win teams. Who cares? But like, it's going to be like banger, I think the Bears and 49ers is actually for a playoff spot at the end. And I think that game is going to be a ton of fun, just after both of their quarterbacks have gotten through the whole year and stuff.
I would say I think a really fun one is just because it'll be like a test of like, where are you for both of these teams, because both of them came out of nowhere last year, Denver and Washington.
Okay.
Both of them, like we expected a rise from Washington. We expected Denver to be better than their win total, but we both didn't expect Denver to have one of the best turnarounds in spite of the cap situation they were dealing with. And then Jaden Daniels had one of the best rookie seasons of all time, leading to an NFC title game from the second overall pick just a year prior. So
Right.
this year, now there's expectations for both of them. Neither are going to be favored to win their division, but I think both of them will be much closer this year to that first seed, the Philly and Kansas City respectively, to maybe snipe them or eclipse them. So game doesn't mean anything from tiebreaker purposes, but it'll be a fun one nevertheless.
Yeah. And then we'll go over to Monday Night Football. There's a lot of Monday Night Football games because they double up. And if you look up,
yeah, so that was
crazy.
the interesting thing because they recently started to do this where a couple of double headers on Monday nights, which I think why have 8 games that are 1 o'clock games and 3 of them being blacked out when you can just double up on national television? So they did that 4 times. That's why there's 3 columns. So week 2, week 4, week 6, and 7 all have double headers. I think that's really fun and exciting. But there's a lot of games. There's like 21 games on Monday Night Football this year.
That's awesome.
A lot.
Yeah, I love that though. A lot of I was looking through this and I was like, wow, a lot of them are like AFC versus AFC, NFC versus NFC. There's a few that aren't, and I know that the Week 11 game between the Cowboys and the Raiders is going to be a fun one in Las Vegas. I think that game.
I was going to say,
super exciting.
I know we're taking a trip because that's your birthday eve, and
yeah,
I am also. We both share. We're both Scorpios, so it's a whole thing. But I was like, hey, we're going to take a trip, and then I was like, hey, as low as $630. I was like,
cool.
No. We're not doing that this year.
No, we just gotta win.
Oh yeah, okay.
When we get there,
we'll make a pact. If we go 4 figures early on, then we'll force ourselves to buy tickets.
Hey man,
I'll
go.
All right. Well, I guess either way, I think Dallas plays a lot of our friends' teams this year, and I think they're going to be on the outside looking in terms of dubs this year.
But I think that game is probably 2 teams that are pretty matched as like overall. Like I think it could be a true shootout because I think the Raiders are honestly could be the carnival, like the fantasy carnival. Mm-hmm. Solid offense, can't stop anybody on defense, some turnovers. I think Dallas is kind of similar. Good offense. I don't know if y'all can stop anybody on defense yet. Y'all got to have actual cornerbacks that don't get hurt.
The thing is, Dallas is coming off a bye going into that game, and they better win that one because the next 6 games, the final 6 weeks of the fantasy football season, are all 2024 playoff teams.
Yeah.
So you got to win the ones that you're probably – I don't even know if they're going to be favored. It might be a pick 'em. But either way, it's going to be a neutral site game that you have as good of, if not more talent.
Yeah.
So you got to get it done.
For sure. And then the holiday games, we got some Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Black Friday games. There's some to talk about, but I did want to kind of point out the Cowboys are on Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Lions Chiefs are on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and the Chiefs are on Thanksgiving and Christmas. I thought that, come on, NFL, like spread the love. Spread the love.
Well, the thing is the Chiefs are going to drive the ratings, Cowboys are going to drive the ratings, and the Lions are a fun team to watch. So I understand why they're doing it, what they're doing it. The biggest thing is the matchups, and I want there to be good football. So that Thanksgiving slate is awesome.
Yes.
And I know the Chiefs and Cowboys game on paper might be a blowout, but say Dallas is being a little frisky or the Chiefs play down to their competition like they did all of last season, and it's a good game, it's going to rate really well with Patrick Mahomes coming back to Texas. But those 3 games, awesome. Black Friday game hopefully is better than it would be expected. I wish it was Chicago hosting so that they had more of a fighting chance. But the Christmas slate, again, I think last year it was a double dud, if I remember correctly, in terms of the competitive nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Cowboys Commanders, if Cowboys are above expectations, they could be fighting for wildcard spots. So that's going to be a huge implication there. Lions Vikings, that could be very well a division, winner kind of game. It was last year when that was Week 18 matchup to decide the 1 seed versus the 5 seed was that exact matchup. So they have to face each other again in Week 17. And then Denver, Kansas City, which we mentioned previously, is going to be for the division on Christmas night. And then this year there's no clunkiness of last year Christmas was on a Wednesday, so there was back-to-back Saturday games to get onto Wednesday. This is going to be organically on a Thursday, which people are kind of accustomed to at this point. So you won't have that kind of quirkiness this year.
I think that the Bears-Eagles game is really interesting because I think that's a 7-4 Bears team probably when they get there, and that makes me wonder if they're going to come out with a fire. Like, we need to see if we are that team.
Well, and the thing is with Philly,
Eagles
like
team.
The target's on your back now, and they've done this thing recently where they have good year, then they have down year. And so the last time they won the Super Bowl, they missed the playoff. Or I'm sorry, they didn't miss the playoffs. They were taken down early after Nick Foles took over once again, and then they went to the Super Bowl, and then they started out 11-1. Then they had the collapse, and then the blowout against the Bucs where they just didn't even show up and stuff like that. So you're getting everybody's best when you're the champ. So just expect that, because I mean, Kansas City, they were 15-1 going into the final week last year, but everybody played them close. Carolina played them close. Every division opponent that rarely gets over the hump, all of them were close and down to the wire. So expect Philly to have a little bit more competitiveness and maybe drop more than you would think this year.
Yeah. And then the fun games where we have some international games where we get to watch those at, I don't know, not 8:30 in the morning. First one is one that really excites me, actually, is another AFC West challenge, Chargers and Chiefs, just to kind of see where the Chiefs are in week one, just to see what they're at. And then are the Chargers going to come back after they got, that terrible 4 interception?
I hope the field's better, because that was the Philly and Green Bay game last year where everybody was complaining about the grass. And then remember, Jordan Love goes down at the very end, and it's just like, oh, we'll never do this again. Well, they did it again. And so, but this one's a division game that tiebreaker wise means even more, which is crazy to say. So it's interesting that I wouldn't say the word waste, but they used a division game to do this game. But nevertheless, it should be a fun one. But then, like I said earlier, Vikings back-to-back weeks. They're going to the first ever Ireland game, and then they're going to kick it off against the Browns in London. So
crazy,
kind of going to stay there, stay overseas in Europe for a couple weeks, and then go into their bye. They have to play basically back-to-back AFC opponents, AFC North opponents in that stretch. So these are the ideal ones, I guess. I bet Minnesota would be favored in both, but
probably they're definitely favored the second game.
I would say at the very least they'll split, but optimistically you can win both when you're playing against Joe Flacco and Mason Rudolph.
I hope so. I hope so.
You would think so.
So yeah, this is actually one of those things where I like the branch out by the NFL doing this.
Sure. and the Jaguars every year doing the London game.
Last year they didn't get two.
That's what I was saying. So last year they went back to back in London. So this year they kind of gave that honor. I know it's two different countries, but Minnesota doing that this year. But Rams and Jags are a sneaky fun one. That's just a AFC NFC matchup. The Germany game last year, I think it was the Panthers and Giants. And as soon as we saw that schedule, we were just like, why'd y'all do that to the Germans? But at least this year it should be a little bit more fun, because both of these teams improved enough to where they should be in the wild card conversation.
Right.
Again, no tiebreaker implications, but hopefully a fun game on week 10, 8:30 in the morning our time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Madrid, first game in Spain, Washington, and Miami. Yeah,
sure. It's sure. Washington, at least. Yeah. And then the final thing, it's our top 10 GTD primetime games. 1 through 10 are up there. Week 13 got the number one spot for the Bengals and the Ravens.
How could you not? Both of the games basically had 80-point totals. It was going back and forth, fantasy goodness, and on top of that, Bengals and Ravens are the two fighting for that division. So it's going to be absolute fireworks on Thanksgiving night. That's why I had to give it the nod, because of just what they keep on delivering when they meet each other.
I didn't argue, but Ravens and Bills was my favorite.
Yes,
I mean, but it's second.
It's close. Honestly, the top three were just in a tier of their own.
Fair,
because Lions and Eagles is true. That could be for the 1 seed going on Sunday Night Football Week 11 as we get into November, and then Rams Niners always deliver. Sean Payton and Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan always deliver together. Cowboys Eagles. Maybe this is a little high, but it's not about which of these teams is a Super Bowl contender. It's more about, hey, Dallas, you're basically irrelevant now in the division, at least this year. So are you going to spoil the party and play spoiler, play the underdog, or are you just going to be like, is this going to be what the Giants you did to the Giants a couple of years ago when they had back-to-back years of opening the season and you shut them out in New York? It's one of those things.
Yeah, and then you go Lions and Chiefs. I mean, we've loved what the Lions have been able to do for multiple years. I know they lost both OC and DC, but we love their team. So I just think, you're talking about top two teams in each division going at it, or in each conference going at it. Sure. Love that. Bucks and Rams. Well, I mean, the Bucks and Falcons game, I would have actually swapped here because of how insane it was.
So, yeah.
You know what
so,
I mean?
the Falcons Bucks had to be on here.
Right.
But also that game could very well be for the division. They're both going to be 8.5, 9.5 total. That whoever wins is probably 9-8, 10-7. And last year, I think the Falcons actually swept them, but still did not win the division because they lost in the final week of the season. So, with that being said, this should be fun, and I just can't get Kirk Cousins, just Daryl Hodge, all that fun stuff, get out of my mind. But the reason I put the Bucks and the Rams is just because, hey, both of these teams, this is a huge seeding implications. Both of them are probably going to be favored to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a neutral site, or not a neutral site, but a dome game. Sunday Night Football, primetime, Baker Mayfield, the team that, saved his career in Los Angeles when he was able to do it on Thursday night as a, relief emergency quarterback against your very Raiders. And, I think that's a really fun one. Has a lot of implications, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, Broncos Chiefs for the division, Christmas night, all that fun stuff. Commanders Chiefs, non-division, but hey, this is a litmus test of Washington, because Washington, again, you have expectations now.
I just wish they weren't in the middle of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That week 8 game is okay, that kind of sucks. Yeah. You could have done a little bit. That was my only problem with it. And that's why I think you left it at 9 instead of putting it higher. Because I was like, damn, it's week 8. That's just, okay.
It's a weird spot.
But yeah.
It's a whole lot of fun. But even though, there's 40, 50 other games, I think they did a really good job of the primetime slate this year. And I'm just, like I said, I hope that, and on top of that, they opened the flexibility rules a little bit more to where you don't have to have as much of a notice to flex a game in case.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to help a lot when you see, two teams that come out of nowhere and they're both 10-2, and it matters in week 15 versus hey, all these guys are injured and it doesn't matter because we're both out of the playoffs.
Please move the games.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. Let me stop sharing. That's actually the whole thing.
Zoom through.
Yeah, that's our
bang,
quick schedule reaction. We'll actually have Cam will do a fantasy schedule reaction coming out next Tuesday. So you'll see that coming out when he gets that done. And that'll have all the fantasy implications and where we see
just winners, losers. Yeah. A lot of times you just want to correlate well if you're trying to make tiebreakers of tiers, because these guys, how do you separate Saquon versus a Bijan versus a all these guys? Well, hey, this team has a week 14 bye, and then they have a hard fantasy playoffs. Whereas this team, you get to play Jacksonville, Chicago, and it's all those kinds of things. So, a whole lot of fun. I'll get a little bit more into it next week, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. Let us know in the comments, what is your favorite game? What are things that you're most looking forward to? I know we're still 3+ months away, but because we're able to get into best ball season, we just shot our first video of the summer, and then getting to this because we know the schedule now, it just feels like we can taste it just a little bit, which is exciting to me.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff in here for fantasy, NFL, just talking about power rankings. We'll be doing those, obviously. We'll be doing college stuff. Me and Dustin are going to be doing transfer portal outlooks. We're going to be doing rankings, next 2026 NFL draft prospects, because me, I got to get on that. That's my next thing on my board. So a lot of fun stuff coming up, and there's a lot of football that we get to talk about even in May and June and July, which is awesome.
Yeah, so much to do, so much to discuss. Get in that community. Please like, comment, subscribe if you have not already. Join this community. We passed 250. We're going on the way to 300, and then all the way to 1,000, and then 2, and then 5, and then 10. We're just going to grow this community as much as because we love talking football, and we want to hang out with you guys and discuss.
Yeah, so we appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we'll see y'all on the next one.